Hey everybody, sorry, the Stream Deck is doing, not Stream Deck, yeah, Stream Deck, I don't know, it's doing weird stuff. Anyway, I am recording, we'll continue regardless. Right, how's it going? This is the news for the 27th to the 3rd of July 2022. So, there was a Nintendo Direct this week, showing off a bunch of third-party games, so nothing from Nintendo first-party stuff, so nothing about Zelda, Metroid, Mario, F-Zero, etc. Pikmin. I was trying to think of another one. Anyway, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak was given again another trailer to just make you guys aware that it's out, or was going to be out that day, I think, on the Nintendo Direct, so big expansion for Monster Hunter. Nier Automata End of Yorha Edition, coming to Switch, finally. It's apparently on everything now, or it should be. So it should have all of the DLC, all of the different costumes and stuff that came with the game afterwards, and also it's getting Switch exclusive costumes, which I'm a little annoyed about. It's like, I want them. I want the whole thing, but I don't want to have to buy the game again. Nier Automata is fantastic. Like, it's a very good game. I really like it. Do I like it enough to buy it again just for the costumes? Yeah? Kinda, I do. Anyway, new game, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. So this is the next game from the people who made Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is a kind of like a runner game, but it's like very curated levels, like handcrafted levels. It's not like a procedural thing. It's extremely stylish, very good music and so on. You can even play it on your phone, I think, at this point. This is not like that at all, other than the stylish bit. I'm getting a lot of Killer 7 and Killer is Dead from it. Like there's a lot of Killer 7 going on here. I'll be interested to give this a shot. I'm always like murder mystery stuff, and it's Annapurna doing publishing, and despite what might be going on in the background in Annapurna, they do tend to publish games that I am interested in. So I'll be giving this one a shot whenever it actually does come out. Then we had Super Bomberman Or 2. I guess... So Super Bomberman Or was the Stadia exclusive Super Bomberman game. That was Super Bomberman Royale. That's what the Or was for. It was a Battle Royale version of Super Bomberman, which works well, surprisingly. Like, it's really interesting. They have like 16 maps of like, you know, Bomberman maps, your standard grid-based map. And they whittle it down to like, until everybody's just in the center map. Must be more than 16. They must have an odd number or something. But you know, you all spawn in different areas of the map, and then every minute one map gets cut off and everyone needs to, you know, congregate, and some people die along the way and so on. It actually works really well, but I guess they didn't want it to be locked to the Stadia. So Super Bomberman Or 2 is basically going to be the same thing with a couple of more things. There's like a tower defense castle mode thing going on as well. But yeah, interesting. Then Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is all of the Mega Man Battle Network games, which were like a grid-based, almost turn-based Mega Man thing that a lot of people who played it, of the people who played it, a lot of them seem to really like them. But you're getting a package of all 10 of them now to be added. Then we have Pac-Man, the Pac-Man World Remake, Pac-Man World Repack, which is like a 3D platformer thing of Pac-Man, which is a little strange, but okay, you could have come up with a new IP, but whatever. Then we have Blanc, which is a new game. This is going to be a co-op title, so this is strictly for 2 players, in the same way that It Takes Two and the other game from Hazelight that required 2 people to play. I forget what it's called now. But you are going to be, one player will be playing a wolf cub, the other player will be playing a fawn. You have been separated from your respective families because of this snowstorm, and now you need to follow their trail and, you know, reunite. And, you know, you have, the wolf pup has certain strengths that the fawn doesn't have, and the fawn has certain strengths that the wolf pup doesn't. So you need to, you know, work together kind of thing. So, like, the wolf can fit through small gaps and can sniff out things, and the fawn is dexterous. It can jump really high, and I think it can move. I think it's stronger than the wolf pup, which I wouldn't have thought, but okay. It looks really nice. Like, I really like this art direction here. The real struggle, of course, will be to find a second person who also has a Switch, who I know, who wants to play a game about a puppy and a fawn. That might be a struggle. I may have to play this with like 2 Joy-Cons and rub my belly and pat my head, kind of thing. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Pretend you didn't see that. Mario and Rabbids. No, hang on, I skipped one. Return to Monkey Island. Okay, so Return to Monkey Island. Full trailer this time with gameplay. We've showing off some of the characters. Guybrush is here, Elaine is here, LeChuck is here, Stan is here, Swordmaster of Melee Island is here, Carla, and so on. There's a lot of returning faces and such, and we're getting a better look at the art style and art direction. That's a bit contentious at the moment. It seems to be a lot of people don't like it. They don't like the art direction. I am somewhat split. I am okay on the environment. The environment looks really nice. Most of the characters are fine. I think it's just Guybrush that I'm not super keen on. I think everyone else I'm kind of alright with. Guybrush just looks a bit strange to me. Everyone else seems kind of fine now that I've watched this trailer a couple of times. But yeah, there was some big fallout because of this that we'll get to in industry bullshit. But yes, some people were less than civil, stating their dislike for the art style. Anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, Return to Monkey Island still doesn't have a release date though. Still this year at some point, but we don't know when. Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope got another trailer. Now it has a release date, October 20th. Mario and Rabbids being the Super Mario characters, and the Rabbids from Ubisoft have a crossover, and they made an XCOM style game for some reason. It shouldn't work, but it does. Not entirely sure why. Little Noah Scion of Paradise is a side-scrolling roguelike thing that came out on the day. It was a surprise it's out today, so we'll talk about that in the new releases instead. Railgrade is a rail train management thing that I glazed over when the trailer came on. I was like, this isn't for me, no thanks. RPG Time, The Legend of Right is a really interesting concept. So it is it's your standard side-scrolling RPG kind of thing, but it is presented in such a way that you are kind of helping a game developer make the game on the fly. Like, you're almost there as a playtester kind of thing, and they're giving you like this crafted, sketched out version of the game and how they expect it to play and so on, and you're like doing a playtest kind of it, and responding to the game developer in the time, like trying to tell you how these things might work. And like, I've made little cards that are supposed to simulate your attacks and so on. Like, it's really fun concept, and the presentation is really nice because it's like this arts and crafts kind of thing. So this will be out in August at some point. I think it has been on PC, possibly in early access form at some point, but the full thing should be out soonish, next month. Give that one a look as well whenever that happens. Where were we? Sonic Frontiers got another trailer, showed off a bit more of a kind of cyber style level that seems to be a bit more of a classic Sonic, as opposed to the Frontiers style that seemed to be more of a Breath of the Wild crossed with Sonic type deal. So at least there'll still be some of the classic, just run to the right really fast kind of levels. Disney Dreamlight Valley got a bit more of a showing. So you may recall this was shown off a couple of weeks ago. This is basically going to be a big money spinner for Disney. It's the Disney and Pixar characters sharing a universe, somewhat Stardew Valley-ish style, where you are trying to help them remember their past and whatever by going through the films and the TVs and all that kind of stuff, and collecting those characters along the way. And you may or may not be paying for costumes and characters and so on. It's that kind of thing. Going into early access on Switch, which is new. I can't think of a game that went into early access on Switch before, but apparently September is then when that'll happen. Live Alive or Live Alive or Live Alive, still not sure how you're meant to pronounce it, is a HD 2D remake of the original Live Alive, Live Alive, Live Alive, whatever it is. Demo came out on the day of the Direct. It's out there now. You can play 3 of the different scenarios. If you're not familiar, Live Alive or whatever is a fairly old school JRPG kind of thing, but instead of you following one set of characters for like 40, 60 hours, whatever it is, you are split up into like 7 different stories. And you can just play them in any order you want. And there is some overarching story that connects all of them. A bit Octopath Traveler, a little bit like that. Only Live Alive did it first, basically. Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom is a farming sim thing with the Doraemon character. If you're not familiar with them, you're probably not interested in the game either. Minecraft Legends is a kind of RTS thing, but Minecraft, basically. You can still craft stuff and whatever, but it's mostly focused on like large-scale combat within the Minecraft universe. Dragon Quest Treasures is a new game, or a new game, like a lot of those were new games, but this is a new game that we hadn't seen before. Dragon Quest Treasures seems to be taking the Dragon Quest IP and some characters from some of the more recent Dragon Quests, and then taking the Dragon Quest Builders treasure hunting minigame and just making it a full thing. There's a lot more to it now. It seems you're able to recruit monsters and have them help you out in the environment. You have slimes that you can jump off, you have drackies that you can float along on, there were saber cats that you could ride around on. You can also just pit them into combat against other enemies and so on. And the goal is to collect treasure in the area, basically. So if you're a big collectibles kind of person, like I am, this might be, firing a lot of neurons in your brain, which it very much is. So I very much want to know what else is the deal with this game. That was Dragon Quest Treasures. Portal Companion Collection is going to be Portal 1 and Portal 2 on the Switch as just a collection thing. That's it. If you haven't played either of those games, do it. Do it right now. They're very good games. I'm going to skip Harvestella for a second and just talk about the Persona 3, 4, and 5 collection that was announced on Xbox and then on PC, and now it's on Switch. So basically, Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal are on everything now. Basically. So great. Now you have no excuse not to play any of those games. They're all very, very good. Particularly Persona 5 Royal and particularly Persona 4 Golden. Persona 3 Portable mightn't scale that well on your TV. It mightn't look that great. But they're all still very good games. Okay, so Harvestella. Harvestella was this kind of standout game for me in the Direct because it looks like Rune Factory. And if you're not familiar with that, that was like a JRPG series that also had farming simulator elements. Dark Cloud is another one that's also available on like PlayStation Plus packages now if you wanted to give those a look. This looks like a huge upgrade of those kind of games. So think of Stardew Valley, but also action RPG combat at the same time. And you've kind of got a good idea of what Rune Factory was. This is basically Rune Factory with a budget. Pretty much. It looks gorgeous. I'm liking the combat seems fairly basic, but it also seems like it's fun. I'm actually curious who the developer are. I think it's Tokyo RPG Factory because it looks a lot like some of their games. The art style in particular. I mean, like the avatars and the way the 3D models are drawn, sculpted, I guess. It just says Tokyo RPG Factory to me, so I'm curious who actually is the developer. I don't think the developer's name was put on the trailer. The idea is you have your standard, seasons, growing your different crops, helping out people around the town, getting to know them, the Stardew Valley thing of building up relationships with the different people in different towns. There are multiple towns, it has been said in the game. But then, it's not entirely clear when it happens, but the season of quietus happens at some point. And when it does, it basically stops anything from growing. It's like all your crops wither, everyone is really miserable and so on and so forth. And it's not clear how long that lasts, but I have a feeling that that's kind of going to be like a cyclical thing. It's like a story-based thing. It's like when quietus happens, you kind of have to stop the farming bit and go do the combat bit and then do something to make quietus stop, go back to doing the farming thing, hey, story thing happens again, and so on and so forth. I think that's where the back and forth will be in the game. We don't know yet. We don't really know too much about the game other than that. But it's out soon-ish. It'll be out in November at some point, so I have subbed that into our plan for the rest of the year, we will definitely be taking a look at this. Whether it ends up being a full LP or not, probably not, but maybe. And that was that for the Nintendo Switch Direct, which was focusing entirely on third-party developers, but no mention of Bayonetta 3. Still allegedly coming out this year, so you would have expected the trailer to have appeared on that Nintendo Direct. That's kind of where it should have appeared, and it didn't. So I don't know what's happening with that. Okay, so some updates this week. So 13, the game, the cult classic, maybe, I don't know. Some people like it, mostly for its art style. The original one, at least, had this kind of cell shaded thing back when cell shading was still kind of new, and it had this comic book presentation. Like when you would get headshots, you'd get this little comic book cutout to show it happening, and like enemies becoming aware of you in stealth scenarios. You'd get again little comic side panels of them going or that kind of stuff. It had a really nice presentation. The remake stripped all of that out and made it extremely generic, to the point that people were like, why did you bother remaking 13 if you were going to take away all of the interesting parts of the game and just make a generic first-person shooter, which wasn't all that great. So I guess they've come to their senses and decided, yeah, let's try that again. Let's remake it again. So yeah, that's the plan. They're going to release a patch later on at the end of this year that apparently is going to be a huge overhaul of the game. So, game originally developed by PlayMagic, was released in 2020 with lots and lots of bugs. The game was the second worst reviewed title of 2020. What was the worst reviewed title? What was the worst reviewed title of 2020? Fast and Furious? The worst scored game of the year was Ice Torch Interactive's Switch title Tiny Racer. Never heard of it. I've never heard of that game. I have heard of this one though. It's the second worst reviewed. That's not great. Anyway, Microids and PlayMagic apologized, said, yeah, we're going to work on it, etc. Microids, the publisher, have instead hired a different studio. So they said, fuck off, PlayMagic. We're going to hire a different studio that are going to massively overhaul the remake and make it a game that players can enjoy as originally intended. So French studio Tower 5, who have worked with Microids on some other things beforehand, have reworked a bunch of things in the game, and that there will be a patch at some point. We are fully aware and terribly sorry that the initial launch of 13 Remake on PS4, Xbox One, and PC did not reach players' expected quality standards. This is from Microids. A bit more than a year ago, we took the decision to hire on these people. We didn't want to take the time to fix it, so here's all the things that are allegedly going to be in the patch, which is fairly significant, fairly significant amount of things. The Nintendo Switch version, which hadn't been released on Nintendo Switch up until now, so the Nintendo Switch version will, I guess, coincide with all of these changes. And we can't wait for the thing later on this summer. So soon enough, if you really wanted to go back, like if they really do change it in such a way that it is a proper remake, I might give it a shot. Otherwise, the kind of generic thing they came out with was just boring. And then extremely disappointing news, but not exactly surprising news. Sucker Punch has no plans to revisit Sly Cooper or Infamous. So yeah, that's like refreshing that they would tell us that, but also kind of big sad face for that, because that's not great. Celebrating its 25th anniversary that it wouldn't have got to without these franchises, it decides to say, nah, we're not going to work on those games. Fuck those games. All Ghost of Tsushima all the time. With our focus on our current project, we have no plans to revisit Infamous or Sly Cooper right now, and no other studio is currently working on projects related to those franchises either, because Sony bought Sucker Punch just before Ghost of Tsushima, I think. And the idea might be that they also got the IP with it, in which case they could ship the IP to another studio and have another studio work on Sly Cooper or Infamous or whatever. But no, nobody's working on these games that people really want. No, why would they do that? No, let's continue working on other games. I mean, yes, more IP is always good, but also, like, loads of developers who'd love to work on it. Just give them the opportunity to do it. Anyway, Sucker Punch has confirmed that Infamous Second Son's Cole Legacy DLC, originally only included as part of the Collector's Edition, will now be released on the PlayStation Store. So that will be interesting, I guess. It's really more of a question of how big is that? Is it any good, and will it actually placate people? No, is the answer. I did check last week. I had a look at to see why Infamous wasn't on EU PlayStation Plus. Turns out it is. It's just not included in the catalog list for some reason. But if you search for it, it's there. You can find it. Weird. It's like I click on View All Games. You assume it shows you all the games. It doesn't. There's some hidden away. I don't know. I don't understand. Anyway. Alright, it is the first week of a new month, which means PlayStation Plus and Xbox Games with Gold have new games added to their roster. So for PlayStation, we have Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, Dark Pictures of Man of Medan, and Arcadegeddon. So, no? Yes, Arcadegeddon. Okay, anyway. So Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time was a sequel, kind of, to the Crash Insane trilogy, more or less. So the Crash Insane trilogy came out, which were all remakes of 1, 2, and 3, and then that was very well received. They said, hey, let's just make a new one, right? Crash 4. It's about time. It's all time traveling, it's all different suits and different powers, but it's more Crash stuff. And if you have PlayStation Plus in July, free. So give that a shot. All platforming fun time stuff. Then there is the Dark Pictures, the Man of Medan. The Dark Pictures anthology is from Supermassive Games, who make Until Dawn on the channel somewhere. If you want to look it up. There's a full LP of Until Dawn. And they also make The Quarry, which we are currently in the process of doing a full LP for. So the Man of Medan, or the Dark Pictures anthology in general, is a anthology of smaller horror titles in the same vein, same kind of adventure, choose your own adventure kind of thing, presented as this kind of storybook teller who's like telling you a story, and he's like, hey, you make the decisions on how it ends, kind of thing. They're fun for the most part. Some of them are better than others. Man of Medan is probably the weakest one. No, Little Hope is probably the weakest one. Man of Medan has some good parts, but it is a bit samey because a lot of the game is set on this derelict kind of ghost ship, and then a lot of the areas just end up looking the same. That's all. You get a little bit fatigued that there's no change. But in Man of Medan, you are scuba diving for like these sunken treasures, sunken ships, and so on, and you get boarded by pirates who want you to take them to this big ship that they think will have treasure or something in it, and no, it's got ghosts and shit. But yeah, fun times. Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. House of Ashes is the better one at the moment, at least. When The Devil in Me comes out, that might end up being the better one, but it's not out yet, so I don't know. And Arcadegeddon, I haven't played. I've played the other two, I haven't played this. But I can see why now, having looked through the trailer, because it's definitely not my kind of game. It is a kind of arena looter shooter type thing set in this arcadey neon thing situation. It's got strong Fortnite vibes for me, basically, and that's just guaranteed to make me have zero interest in playing it. But there you go, that's what it's like. It's an arena looter shooter thing. There is allegedly a campaign of some kind, but I imagine most of it is supposed to be a multiplayer type. But yeah, that's that. Free PS Plus, I guess. If there are other people playing it at the time, that would also be good for you. Over on Xbox, Games with Gold. So first we have Beasts of Maraville Island. So Beast of Maraville Island is a kind of a Pokemon Snap idea, only you seem to have free reign. So if you remember or have played Beyond Good and Evil, there was sort of a sub mini game in that where you could take pictures of different animals and creatures in the world while you were going about playing the rest of the game. And that was always a kind of fun idea. That was a fun mini game that a lot of people who played that game really enjoyed of it. And Beasts of Maraville Island appears to be, hey, let's just make a game that's just that. You know, having to figure out how you can get to such places in such a way that you can take pictures of these creatures. And that's kind of the deal. You have your little checklist of, you need to take a photo of this creature, basically. And that's what you're going around doing, just taking pictures of things. Fun. And we have a Relicta. I can relict my own balls, thank you very much. Relicta is a first-person physics puzzle thing. I'm not entirely sure how things work. A lot of this trailer is just set up. I don't know how you control things in the game is the question, because there's some quick cuts here of you apparently controlling things, but if you tell me what the player is actually doing in any of these scenarios, you know, I guess they were toggling switches in that last one, but the rest of them I can't figure out how it works. But anyway, and then there's some weird shit happening in the world as well. Then there was Thrillville Off the Rails, but I can't find a proper trailer for it because the game is so old. It's like 12 years old now or something. Apparently they never made a proper official trailer for the game or something. I don't know. But think of it as theme park, more or less. It's like run your own amusement park kind of thing. Then there's Torchlight, which again is similarly as old, but for whatever reason it has a proper trailer. Torchlight is a Diablo clone. I think they're up to like Torchlight 4 now at this point. But yeah, it's like a very cartoonish Diablo game, more or less. Like the original Diablo. You have a very limited class system. Again, remember, this is a very old game. Again, 12 years old. You have, you know, big heavy bruiser guy, fast, nimble, rogue type, and then you've got magic man, more or less. You know, you've got your standard fantasy makeup: magic person, DPS person, tank person. That's it. And I think you had a map editor as well that came with the original Torchlight. That's your PlayStation Plus and Games with Gold for July. And new releases. So new releases this week. First up is DnF Duel, which is Dungeon and Fighter Duel, and not Do Not Fuck Duel, or Do Not Finish Duel. This is it's sort of resurrecting a very old IP, which was a pretty standard dungeon crawler, and they've instead taken the characters, the universe, some of the monsters and so on, and just said, hey, you know what, let's make a fighting game out of it. Why not? Because that makes sense. And while it shouldn't really make sense, apparently it's a very good fighting game. Like, I don't exactly follow them too much, but even the little that I do follow of fighting games, I've been hearing a lot about DnF Duel. So if you're into it, if you're into fighting games and you have enough people that you can play them often with others, give it a shot. It's out this week, and it looks very, very nice and very pretty. And we have Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, which is DLC, long-awaited DLC for Cuphead. The Delicious Last Course is, of course, an anagram, or not an anagram, abbreviation. Anyway, more Cuphead. Basically, you have to have finished the game, you have to have reached a particular point in the game before you can play this. I think you have to have reached the first Chalice mini area to have been introduced to Miss Chalice, basically, because she is a new playable character in the game. But yeah, more Cuphead. So if you enjoyed Cuphead in the first place, I'm sure you probably already knew this was coming. And then Little Noah, Scion of Paradise, which again I said I would talk about because it was brought up in the Switch Direct and it was surprise released on the same day. So it is a roguelite that was actually supposed to be a gacha game originally. It was meant to be a kind of collectathon of collecting different monsters to help you out in your runs in different dungeons. And you would do the slot machine thing of gacha games to collect new monsters and new weapons and so on and so forth. But for whatever reason, the developer decided to not continue down the gacha route. Not sure why. We don't know why exactly. And they've decided to instead just make it a roguelite type game and have all of the stuff available without having to spin wheels and, charge up gems or whatever it has to be for the mobile game type thing. And just said, you know what, let's just make it a collectathon kind of game. And knowing that they're essentially trying to salvage what was going to be a gacha game, it's interesting how they've gone about it. So you do have your roguelite type thing where you're dropping into dungeons and collecting loot and so on and trying to improve your character and get to the end of the dungeon and so on. The way that works is you collect Lilliputs in the game. These are these other monsters that effectively attack for you, and you are collecting them as you go and using them in combat. The roguelite element, I think, of it is that you can upgrade these Lilliputs and unlock new ones that you can find in the dungeon and so on. I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out. Like, it wasn't necessarily something that like immediately screamed to me, because I've played so many roguelites now, and none of them have come close to Hades, basically. But I don't know. I've watched this trailer a couple of times now, and there's something about it that just seems fun. Don't know. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I don't know. I think I'll give it a shot. And then Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. You know, this is a big deal for Monster Hunter people, Capcom people, myself, if I had other people to play Monster Hunter with, also, and I had a decent PC, because I can't play it on the Switch. It's just not that fun. I don't know. It's just not that fun to play on the Switch. I guess I've played too much of Monster Hunter World, and the graphical downgrade is too much for me. But yeah, more Monster Hunter Rise, more monsters to hunt, that kind of thing. Monster Hunter is a very fun game. Like, every monster you fight is a really cool boss fight. That's the way to look at it. They're all, I was gonna say unique. They're not necessarily unique, but every fight is different and difficult, and you know, you really do need help from a lot of enemies. You could think of them as like Dark Souls bosses, and just not quite as punishing, but they definitely require as much sort of trial and error, and you know, entirely sure how to put it, but effort, I guess. You know, every monster requires effort. Every monster requires you to come out with the correct equipment and so on, you know, to really know what you're going up against. But it's a lot of fun. Monster Hunter titles. Okay. How is the mic is on? Okay, good. I was worried. I was worried for a second the microphone wasn't on that whole time. Sorry, I'm just checking OBS because it has been behaving a bit strange lately, and the Stream Deck has just turned itself off. Never a good sign. Hopefully things are still fine. Okay. Anyway, it is now time, unfortunately, to talk about the worst part of the video game industry. Shit. It's now time to talk about the worst part of video games. The video game industry. Okay, I should get this written up somewhere and just have it hanging over the monitor so I don't keep fucking it up. So, going back to the Return to Monkey Island trailer and the kind of fallout from that, there was a lot of toxic feedback. A lot of personal attacks on Ron Gilbert and the developers, like, you're ruining Monkey Island, you don't know what you're doing, yada yada yada, but we're the developers, you know. I think we're pretty sure we know what we're doing. But anyway, it got very disgusting very quickly, and it led to Ron Gilbert shutting down comments and posts and stuff, and him feeling generally shitty about just interacting with the gaming community in general. And he wasn't the only person to feel that brunt, because similarly, God of War Ragnarok developers, Sony Santa Monica Studio and Cory Barlog in particular, were also hit with bullshit toxicity stuff because people were mad that their toy isn't out yet. But anyway, Monkey Island creator Ron Gilbert was no longer going to talk about the upcoming release of Return to Monkey Island following online abuse, and God of War Ragnarok's producer had to ask everyone to remain patient while waiting for more news on the game. It had since transpired after that some members of the gaming community, I guess those with private parts, sending unsolicited pictures of their private parts to members of the God of War Ragnarok team. Somehow they believed that this would suddenly make the team give the world an update on the game's release date. Why? Here's my dick, tell me the release date. No? Go away, please. Put yourself on a register. So yeah, some other like game industry names that people may or may not know. Neil Druckmann from The Last of Us and Uncharted, this is the bad ones. Basically saying, hey, stop being shitheads to Ron Gilbert. Dominic Armato, the voice of Guybrush Threepwood, similarly has something to say about that. For a community that fiercely defends its medium as art, there are an awful lot of people who do their damnedest to treat it like a dumb commodity. He had a lot more to say on that as well, but let's skip past that because there's a lot. He was very pissed off, basically. Alex Mann, development for EA, said, when folks continue to wonder or ask why some game studios don't communicate or speak about games ahead of release anymore, or why they don't engage with communities, this is 100% why. It's not worth the personal toll and costs to mental health to continue to try. So congratulations, you played yourself, basically, gaming community. We would be more open if you weren't all shitheads. Cory Barlog, as we said before, came to Ron Gilbert's defense, and then similarly had to do something for his own game later on, but he was like, what the hell, people? Don't be a dick to my game dev hero. Sorry for the bullshit, Ron. Thank you for making things that inspire me to make things. Never stop that. But then later, it transpired that people were sending dick pics to the God of War. Well, sorry, private parts pics. Could be sending badge pics too, I suppose. Are you fucking kidding me with this now? I cannot believe I even have to say this, but don't fucking send dick pics to anyone on this team or anyone in this industry for that matter. They are busting their ass to make something for you to enjoy. Show some fucking respect. Yeah. Sony Santa Monica game writer Alana Pierce also had a common sense reminder: screaming at people over video game release dates doesn't accomplish anything at all. Even if harassing people did cause them to give you a date, you also gain nothing at all by finding out before a team is ready to share. So again, stop being shitheads. And there was more of this, a lot of it. It was all over the place. The day after, Sony Santa Monica had a more professional, shall we say, response to it. Which they released a thing to say, every single person at Sony Santa Monica Studios working to create a game that we're proud of, one that we hope you will enjoy playing once released. Our fans inspire us, debate, and we understand the passion and desire for more information. I'm so passionate, I'm showing you my penis, but okay. But that passion should not be toxic, nor come at the expense of any human being's dignity. Let's celebrate our community by treating each other, every gamer and developer alike, with respect. No, don't treat any gamers with respect. Give us absolute shit. It seems we deserve it at this point. But yeah, that was the more official response from God of War Ragnarok. But a similar idea and sentiments from a lot of different game developers, publishers, and so on had something similar to say. But on the complete other end of that spectrum, EA said something extremely stupid and was absolutely roasted for doing so. So EA tweeted out, trying to jump on the bandwagon of the "they're a 10 but" meme. And they tweeted out, they're a 10, but they only like playing single-player games. Well, fuck you, EA. But also, there's a reason your company is now searching for someone to buy them, because you swore off doing single-player games for so long that you have no money now. So good job on that. The message, or the tweet, received an overwhelming negative response, over 7,000 replies. Jacksepticeye, the YouTuber, who I don't sound anything like, they're a 10, but thought this was a good, they're a 10, but thought this tweet was a good idea. His response, Obsidian, the developer, said, single player is dope, multiplayer is dope, games are rad. Kind of subtweeting them. EA's own employees, so there were a bunch of them just from EA's developers themselves. Vince Zampella, head of Respawn, who has done Titanfall and Jedi Fallen Over, both single-player games, both did very well for EA, Titanfall 2 in particular. And then they decided, you know what, fuck you, we're not making any more Titanfall. Anyway, he replied with a facepalm. BioWare writer, again BioWare, working for EA, also had to say, thinking about working until midnight for the better part of a year to help ship Mass Effect 2. Yeah, and that's what EA thinks of all of his hard work. Starting to feel like you guys fucked up. You guys might have fucked up a little bit here. Former Dragon Age designer Sebastian Hanlon, remember the community manager in the group waiting for our flight to board, said, just be more careful than usual about what you say while you're there. You represent the whole company, whether you like it or not, even if you think you're outside the show. So again, maybe instead of just trying to jump on the bandwagon for a stupid meme, you might have should have thought about it just a little bit, just for a second. Most high-profile criticism and disclosure, I retweeted this one as well, came from Zach Mumbach, former producer on games like Dead Space 2 and Dante's Inferno, which was from Visceral Games that EA shuttered in 2017. Shitheads. This is the company that shut down my studio and laid off 100 great developers because we were making a single-player game. Also, if you break game rating scores down to a 10-point scale, most EA games are a solid 6 or 7. Not because the developers are bad, but because EA, the corporation, forces them to rush games out. EA corporate leadership wouldn't know what a 10 looks like in terms of video games. So, yeah, they got fairly burned for it. His tweet was unfortunately timed, given that EA has recently started making more linear games. They have started to come back to making more linear games. Dragon Age 3, 4, Dead Space Remake, Jedi Fallen Order, and so on. But they have precedent on this. In 2010, an EA executive claimed that the traditional single-player games model was finished. It wasn't. They just wanted it to be finished because they wanted to make more money on loot boxes and season passes and all that shit. In 2017, EA's CFO suggested that players don't like linear games as much as they did 5 years ago. All of the best-selling games in the last 5 years have been single-player titles, so okay, where you're getting, and that's their CFO. Again, this was just them saying we make more money off FIFA, so we would prefer if people only played those kind of games. That's all that is. It's not that players don't like single-player games. That was never the deal. It's just that they make more of these kind of games as service type things, which are not single-player games. Anyway, moving on to some less stupid Twitter bullshit. Quebec devs fear new language law will hurt local games industry. So Quebec has a fairly strong game development scene in Montreal. But the government there have decided to do something extremely stupid and extremely bigoted, to be honest. But anyway, Bill 96 will make French the province's sole official language, so no more English, basically. One of the requirements of Bill 96 is that immigrants to Quebec who don't speak French will only be able to access government services in their first language for 6 months. So you've got 6 months to learn French. You've changed jobs, probably changed location. You know, you're in a new country, new city where you don't know anybody, you don't know the language, and they expect you to somehow become fluent in 6 months. Okay. After that time, they must access services in French. Services in English will be restricted to those who attended English schools in Quebec or elsewhere in Canada. So unless you were educated in Canada, you can't access English. Right, good, smart. That's a smart one. Okay. All right. Well, veteran Montreal game developer Osama Dorius told CBC, I think are a news channel in Canada. Now, those job seekers are just going to look elsewhere, and I don't blame them. It's going to be very hard for us to compete on a global level. Local industry trade group. Christopher Chansey, who's the chairman of the board of that group, said, "We have a lot of people coming from everywhere around the world to make video games here in Quebec. Our fear is that this is sending out a message that Quebec is not inclusive to other cultures." Yes, it is. It's like learn French or fuck off, basically, which is very Quebec, to be fair, but there we are. For the government's part, they basically said, "We'll be creating a program to help newcomers learn French online in schools and in workplaces, but all sectors must contribute to the efforts to ensure the sustainability of our official and common language." Why? Why? Like, where I live, right, Ireland, Irish is technically our official language, but every single government service is accessible in Irish and English, all of them. And there is a huge push to keep Irish alive, you know, for people to speak it more often and so on. But they haven't gone so far as to say, no, fuck you, learn Irish? No? Well, one, impossible, because the language is so obscure and has so little in common with every other language. But also, it would just tank anybody wanting to relocate here. This is a very, very stupid idea, and hopefully they see how stupid it is. But, like, it's bad for any industry, really, but like, this is a video game news kind of show, so I'm mostly just focusing on the game industry, and Montreal has a pretty sizable video game presence. So yeah, this is bad. If it actually goes through with it, this is going to be very bad. Okay. So MMO Studio wants unpaid volunteers to make Steam's most wishlisted game. So yes, this is a Fntastic developer who are working on the game The Day Before, which is a zombie MMO. Basically, they have been using volunteer workers to basically make the game. The studio currently uses volunteers who are paid with participation certificates and free codes, all things that you can't pay rent with or buy groceries with, and so on. Fntastic's culture is based on the idea of volunteering. It's from the official website. This means that every Fntastic member is a volunteer. No? As we'll see in a second now, they have a very questionable definition of volunteer. Full-time volunteers are paid a salary, which you would typically call an employee. I mean, I suppose you're volunteering to work in that location, but you're all you also have hopefully signed a contract to say you're getting paid too. Doesn't necessarily make you a volunteer. Part-time volunteers who work on translation and community moderating are paid in participation certificates and game codes. So yeah, they're not being paid to do any of that. They're not being paid to do localization, they're not being paid to moderate, they're not being paid to do QA, and so on. It's a particularly shitty follow-up when they were, when Well Played reached out to them, and it says, Fntastic came back to say that the unpaid aspect does not relate to code writing or development itself, just things like localization and moderation. Wow, they're things not worth paying for. Just getting people who are passionate about it to do it for free, basically, for a pizza party, more or less. Localization is one of the more important aspects of software writing, because if you don't do that right, it will come off as an extremely shoddy experience, and or just straight up be refused classification in some countries. It's very important that this be done by people, and it's very important that they be paid to do it, because it's a difficult job. Not to say that code writing and development isn't, because I do that for a living, and that is certainly a difficult job. Localization is equally as difficult. And moderation, as we've seen in the last couple of stories with Ron Gilbert and Cory Barlog, God of War, and so on, moderation is a shitty job. It's not something people should be doing for free. Get paid to do that. Anyway, they had more to say about it, that being a volunteer means that you willingly take part in working for a common cause. Volunteering means that in every action you take, you bring a certain pleasantness. Kotaku reached out to ask if Fntastic had negative experiences with traditional employees, but did not receive a response by the time of publication, because they probably did. They probably didn't pay them. That's probably the issue. So this is the kind of age-old exploitation of people who are passionate about working on video games. You know, people who really, really want to work on them, and then not taking the ethical approach about putting some constraints on that passion, because if you don't, they will work themselves to the bone, because it's something they really want to do. So this is how crunch happens. This is how crunch becomes pervasive, because most people working on video games really want to work on them, because it's a very grueling job. It's a lot of hours, a lot of difficult programming, scenarios, localization, so on. It's all very difficult. And unless you actually enjoyed what you were doing, you can do easier jobs for more money, you know? You can get into other programming jobs that are nowhere near as difficult, and you'll be paid better. So the only reason you would stay is because you actually like doing it. And for people who are less scrupulous, that's easy to exploit. And that's what turns into crunch. It's what turns into unpaid overtime. It's what turns into pizza parties, and so on. But yeah, it's not great. That's not a great look. Not a great look for Fntastic. Okay, we're gonna finish it out with some dumb stuff. So, fan buys 30k of Nintendo stock to ask about possible F-Zero sequel. So this is a Nintendo fan reportedly spent 5 million yen, around 30,000 British pounds, on Nintendo's stock to ask the company about a potential F-Zero sequel in annual shareholder meeting. The response from Shuntaro Furukawa, who is the current president of Nintendo, was to say, "It is realistically difficult to develop new titles and remakes, including sequels, for every Nintendo game that people request. But we are very grateful and appreciate the expectations that our fans have for our games." Okay, it's very corporate response of no, basically. It's a nice way of just saying, we're not making an F-Zero sequel anytime soon. They did go on to say that, like, some other games that had been asked for sequels for, like Famicom Detective Club and so on, have gotten sequels recently. And people had asked them in annual shareholders meeting, and they're like, yeah, we're actually working on a sequel for that already. But thanks for your question. It's not that people necessarily asking for remakes and new titles of every single Nintendo property? Possibly. But I would think more people are asking for very specific games than more niche titles, you know? Lots of people have been wanting F-Zero for a very, very long time now. In the same way, lots of people have been looking for Metroid, and so on. Have as many people been looking for Famicom Detective Club? I doubt it. You know, I doubt it somehow, but here we are. This is from the fan Momji, as they go by on Twitter. I have been playing Nintendo games since I was a child. Among them, I can't get enough of that sense of speed of F-Zero. So they really wanted some proper information on, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen anytime soon? Do you have any plans to do it, and so on? And the answer they got was no, basically. But that was a lot of money just to get told no. You know, at least they told him. They could have just not taken his question, which is entirely within their rights. Impressive, the Simpsons Hit and Run fan remake re-emerges, and it's going open world. Now here's the thing, there was a showing of this title before. So this is like a fan remake again of Simpsons Hit and Run. But what's been changed is that it was taken down a while ago, and people thought it was a cease and desist kind of thing. Which it may have been, because he's re-uploaded it now in Unreal Engine. And there are disclaimers on the video, in the description, all over the place to basically say that this is purely for fun. It will never be released as an actual thing you can play. It's only ever going to be used as like video fun times, basically, which I guess gets them around the cease and desist thing, because there's no competition. You know, it's not going to be competing with the original game, kind of thing. It's only ever going to be a video. So it goes into a lot of like the development process of trying to remake the game. He's also added his own sort of quests and stuff to make it more of an open world thing. And then he's going through like how Unity works and how dialogue trees work and how NPC routing and things like that. A-star maps, AI, all that kind of stuff. It's a really interesting video. And to show off like the Simpsons Hit and Run stuff, it goes on for quite a while. But yeah, he is showing off like having to drop in new models, having to drop in new quests and things like that, and having to change up some of how the memory was handled, because you know it's now he's trying to make it an open world thing and so on. I thought it was really cool, but that video is in the paste bin that will be beneath the video on the VOD, or you can just type that into Eurogamer, or squint really hard and type this URL in. You could probably try that too. Anyway, so let's keep Monster Hunter up. Probably the more interesting looking one. Okay, so that was the news for the 27th to the 3rd of July 2022. So some interesting stuff coming out in the Nintendo Direct. Harvestella looks really interesting to me. Like it's a Rune Factory type thing. It's like a Stardew Valley crossed with an action RPG. Like it's definitely hitting a lot of the things that I enjoy, so hopefully it'll turn out good. And then some other games, some new things like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Blanc, and Little Scion thing, or Little Noah. What was it? I can't even remember what the name of the game was called, but it seemed interesting. We'll give those a try. The 13 remake, I don't know. I guess they're still trying to make back the money they spent on getting the game made. They're still trying to do that, seeing how they can recoup some of their losses. I would say that's all that is. Sucker Punch saying that they're not working on games people really want, and instead they're working on games that, like, it's good that they're working on newer IPs, or if they're just doing more Ghost of Tsushima, or Ghost of Tsushima 2, or whatever they end up calling it. Yeah, it's like, okay, but also there are some great developers out there who could work on Infamous or Sly Raccoon, and just let them. Just let them do it. You know? Or tell Sony to just let them do it, give them that IP. A lot of this is Sony just not wanting to, just wanting to focus on blockbuster stuff, just wanting to focus on Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Returnal, all that caliber of game, instead of trying to go for like smaller titles, like a Sly Raccoon remaster, remake, whatever. And then they like the toxic game community shit. I mean, we all know it's there, right? Like, you can all drop into an online game lobby and just be inundated with racism and bigotry and misogyny and sexism and so on. It's all there, and there just aren't many avenues to deal with it. Like, the best you can do is mute somebody or kick them out of the lobby or ban them out of your Twitch chat or whatever, but it doesn't really get to the core issue, and that it's like entitlement, and like there's no consequences to just being a shithead in general on the internet. Like, there's very little consequence. You just sign up with a different email and continue being a shithead. there's nothing to really stop that, but other than like a complete change in how we approach communities and forums and so on. It's essentially the only real way to do it, and it's to just push back whenever you see it. It's to just say, hey, you're a piece of shit, stop being a piece of shit, or leave. I guess. But anyway, what else was there? The Quebec decision to just make it just French. Hey, Doom Train Inc. I've been talking to my chat about how to be online lately as well. It's good, like it's important to, I guess, remind people that they're people on the other end of these things. Like, the community manager is a person. You know, it's a human being who has to go home and deal with whatever, you know, they have to make their dinner and so on, just like you. They have to pay their taxes and so on, just like you. They're all dealing with their own shit, and then you're piling on, you know, your baby moment that God of War doesn't have a release date yet. You know, they don't need this. They don't need that shit from you and all your similar people, and having to go home to their partner and say, yeah, I had a really shit day in work again. My job is becoming extremely stressful and so on. That's why community managers don't hang out in their job for very long. You don't have too many community managers who have been there for 10 years, 12 years, something like that, you know? They tend to have to leave that job quickly. The Quebec decision to enforce French, very silly. Very silly decision. It's a very backwards decision from the city, or from the province, Montreal in particular. I'm wondering how much of this was, you know, I don't know, hardliners maybe on their government board or whatever it is, but yeah, it seems like a misjudged decision on their part to be so strict about it, but there we are. And Fntastic having volunteers and, you know, dismissing the work of translators, localization QA people, moderators, and saying this isn't worth paying for. You're shitheads. Basically, you're very much big pieces of shit for doing that. Okay, so that was that for the news. So what is going to be happening on the channel next week and going forward? So we have here, which I showed last week. This is going to be, this is essentially my plan for the next 6 months, so July to December of 2022. It'll be these games. We have, on the left here are some of the games we're playing already. So we have Vampire, Bayonetta, The Quarry, Xenoblade Chronicles. They're all Let's Plays currently going on the channel. The plan is to change to Batman Arkham Asylum and Resident Evil at some point, once some of those finish. So again, we're going to do our coin flip to decide if we are going to play Vampire or Bayonetta on Tuesday. So again, we have our coin, we have our Warrior Maiden for Bayonetta, and we have our Undead Skull Knight for Vampire. So Vampire was last, so he can go on the top. And it's Vampire again. Okay, this 50%, 50-50 thing for coin flips, not working out. It's like 4-1 to Vampire at this point. Either that or I'm managing to flip a coin exactly the same every time. 6-month plan is nice. Thanks, Doom Train Inc. That is the plan. How many of those games actually make it in? Debatable. It has changed since last week. I have swapped in our Harvestella, which we looked at on the Steam Direct on this week's news. I've swapped out Okami for that because I just don't think I'm going to get to Okami this year. But that is the plan. Also, Wednesday, The Quarry. I didn't play it last week because I needed to do a lot of D&D prep, more than I was expecting. So I needed that evening to work on it. Coin needs to learn statistics. Absolutely. I need to give it a stern talking to, or check if it's actually balanced properly. It might not be. It might not be balanced correctly. Anyway, we didn't play The Quarry because I needed to prep for D&D. So I had to prep a couple of different scenarios because I wasn't sure how far the guys would get on Friday. And it turns out they only managed to get through about 25% of what I had actually prepared. Which is always the way in D&D. You always either prepare way too much or not enough. Very rare that you prepare exactly as much as you need. Whatever. I had to guess, and I guessed wrong in that case. Xenoblade Chronicles, we're coming close to the end of. I think we've got about 2 more streams, maybe 3 if I decide to do like full 100% on it. Or not full 100% exactly. That would require like time attack and secret bosses and shit. I'm probably not going to bother with. But there's some things like party member affinity and heart-to-heart scenarios and stuff like that I might have to do before we can go ahead and finish the game. Vampire, potentially there's 2 streams left, but I'm thinking that we could probably finish it on Tuesday, now that it's the next game. I still have to make a save so that I can just kill everybody and just get that trophy for killing everyone, and also just see what happens, because I've never seen what happens when you kill everybody in Vampire. My Bayonetta skills, such as they were, which weren't very good in the first place, but they are certainly going to be atrophying because it's been a while now since we played Bayonetta. But once Vampire is done, it will probably change to Batman, Arkham Asylum. And when Xenoblade Chronicles is done, I don't know. I kind of want to do I kind of want to make Saturday to just be giant games, like big games that are just going to take forever for me to finish. I don't want to jump straight into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I don't know yet. I don't want it to be and having said that, I want them to be big games. I don't want it to be so big that I never get to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I don't think it'll be Resident Evil. Resident Evil will follow on from Bayonetta, I think. Yeah, I don't know yet. Any thoughts on Yakuza? Yes. I'm not sure if I should, if I was going to do Yakuza, I'd do the whole thing. I have played a bit of Like a Dragon, so I'm not sure if Like a Dragon is a great place to jump in, because it obviously plays very different to the rest of them. Like a Dragon is... Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon is a turn-based combat game, whereas the other Yakuza games are more like real-time action RPGs. Would you call them an RPG? Probably not. Real-time action adventure type thing. I don't know yet, basically, because I haven't played... I've played the first Yakuza back when it came out on PS2. I think was the first time I played it, and it didn't really click with me. But Judgment has, and Like a Dragon has, so I'm not sure how to go with that. There are RPG elements, yeah, like there are upgrades and different abilities you can unlock and so on, and stat boosts and that kind of thing. So there are kind of some light RPG stuff to it. But yeah, I don't know is the answer to Training. I'm not sure. That's a big undertaking, because if I was going to do it, I'd do all of them, and that's what, 8 games? Yakuza 0 as well, plus the Judgments as well, if we were going to go down that route. And as Anark Hazama was saying last, it's death for your 100% collectible brain. Just makes you go, no. But I don't know. I've definitely been considering it, and I think a few of them are on the PS Plus service now as well. But yeah, I don't know yet. I wouldn't recommend trying to do all of them. Probably not. Oh, hey, Anark Hazama. I didn't realize that was you there. Yeah, all or nothing. Exactly. Your names are coming up in the same color on the chat, so I thought that was all Doom Training. You will be stuck in a Facebook game for 100 plus hours. Yeah. That's there's some very strange mini games in Yakuza, and Mahjong. I don't know how Mahjong works, but I know it's in all the games, and I have no idea how the game works. I know it's like matching symbols and stuff, but I still can't make my brain figure it out, and it's just completely random luck if I just win a game. It's not because I actually did win it. It's I just put the tiles randomly together and I got a win. I don't know. Anyway, that's the 6-month plan anyway, in this little grid that I have stuck up here. We should get to at least play these games at least once. How many of them end up being full Let's Plays, I don't know. Batman and Resident Evil will be full Let's Plays. Resident Evil 2 will be, because I'm trying to get Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 before Resi 4 comes out, so we will be doing that. Deliver Us the Moon will follow on after The Quarry. It's another kind of spooky game, and then Deliver Us Mars is the sequel, so we will probably play that as a full LP. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, again, it is my intention. We're not going to get them done before Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out, because it's out in like 2 weeks, and we haven't finished 1 yet. That's probably not going to happen. Plague Tale Requiem we will probably do a full Let's Play of, because Plague Tale Innocence is already on the channel as a full Let's Play, so we'll probably do that. And yeah, the Dark Pictures, I am going to do all of those at some point. I do enjoy them, But other than that, Monster Hunter, I've tacked on Final Fantasy VII and Monster Hunter just because they're like games I really want to play, and I haven't got around to it yet. Monster Hunter World is more because I don't know if my internet can handle that and streaming at the same time. I don't think it can. And Final Fantasy VII is more of a I'm terrified of playing it because it's such an important game to me. It's such a seminal game because it's when I changed from video games being another hobby to like watching TV and doing other stuff when I was a child to video games are my only thing now. So I'm not watching TV anymore. I'm just playing video games. That was after Final Fantasy VII. So it's important and I'm terrified of playing it, basically. But whatever. I have seen sequel trailers now, so I really should get around to doing it. Anyway, thanks for dropping by, Anarchazama and Doomtrain Inc. and anyone who's hanging out in lurking in the chat. I'm going to head off now for the rest of my day. But this is my plan, so let me know what you guys think, or maybe you have some Yakuza recommendations. Anarchazama, you can drop those to me as well. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to head off. So hopefully see some of you around for Vampire on Tuesday. Hopefully we will finish it, but we might not. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to kill everybody on Tuesday. So come around for that at least. Come around for the absolute genocide of what's about to happen. Okay. You too, Anarchazama. Have a good one. Okay, I'm going to head off. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.